Hello and welcome. Today we have a very special guest. Iris Whitelock is here to share her journey inside of the Living Abundance Mastermind, the incredibly brave and courageous and powerful work she's done with her relationship with money, her relationship with her purpose, her business, and her life. And she's kindly offered to share her story with us today. So thank you so much and welcome, Iris. Thank you for joining us today. Can you take a minute just to quickly introduce yourself, share a little bit about what you do in your work and who you serve?
Thank you. Yes. So I work with people who have got to a point in their lives where they've lost their sense of purpose or motivation, and they're wondering what is there for the rest of their lives. They might be, in their 50s, sort of around retirement, or at a point where it just doesn't feel meaningful anymore, what they're doing. So I work with them to find that purpose and to get that energy going, their creativity, to be able to envision a future that will support them. And abundance obviously is part of that, just being able to tap into that and create the kind of life that they might have dreamed of years ago, but has been sort of pushed into the background in the last few years because of demands of work, family, general pressure. So so I work as a life purpose coach is the label you can put on it. And I also use art therapy in that, because that is just a fantastic way to get through to some of the underlying blocks, if you like, that are stopping people being who they came to be on this planet.
Beautiful. Yeah, I would say you really help people tap into their joy and creativity and joy for life and that life force energy that most people are really shut down from and disconnected from. So it's beautiful, powerful work that you do. And Iris has journeyed with me and with us inside of the Living Abundance Mastermind, bringing in her business and her purpose and her next level. And I'd love you to share a little bit about where were you when it came to your relationship with money and how you were feeling or being inside of your relationship with money before we started this work together? Can you tap back into that?
Yes, in a word, it was desperate. I felt it was always sort of like, where's the next money coming from? I was very kind of just paralyzed sometimes by the thought of where's the money coming from? Where am I going to get enough to be able to, pay the mortgage or put the food on the table? There were times where it got really desperate, where I felt it was really desperate. But the reality of the situation is that I actually have a comfortable life. So there was all this stuff from my childhood, really, that I'd taken on. And I had no idea until I started working on this stuff that was, it was sabotaging me, really. It was stopping me move forward, because I was in this this tangle of fear around how was I going to set up my business? How was I going to, attract clients? Where was I going to get money from to pay the mortgage? All these, things that seemed fairly reasonable at one level, to be worrying about where the money's coming from, since I didn't have a regular job and an income that was just sort of coming. Like I say, desperate was the word around money, a very contracted and tight feeling, a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned around getting kind of paralyzed. That fear would make you freeze, right?
Yeah.
And how would that impact when you were in that money fear, money contraction, or that money paralysis? How did that impact you in terms of like actually being able to move forward with what you wanted? Did you find yourself unable to move forward? Like how did that impact you at that time?
It interfered with my relationship with my husband, for a start. because he was the one who was, controlling the finances. So I was so nervous about the whole issue of money that I didn't want to know what was going on. I kind of blocked off finding out more about our situation, and actually it wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, it was quite comfortable, but I just had this fear, which was just a fear from when I was a child that I'd picked up from my parents. And but so what it did was create frustration for him, because he thought, well, we're okay, so what's the problem? He didn't understand why I was so anxious. I was so anxious that I was depressed and wasn't even able to talk with him, so it interfered with our communication. And they say that most marriages break down because of finance problems, and it's communication. And we weren't communicating. We weren't meeting each other in that communication, because I had so much fear and I was just kind of shut off. And he was just like, what's going on? He didn't understand. So yeah, that's kind of the impact it had on our relationship. So he didn't feel trusted, was the part of the issue. Yeah.
How fascinating. I mean, and it truly is one of like the number one things that couples fight about or fall out about is money. So it actually has a very, very real impact. So you came into the Living Abundance Mastermind, and you've actually come and done 2 rounds within the program. And I know you've had different experiences, and you've had some really great results and tangible results. But one of the things that's so powerful and important inside of the work that we do is really about, working on our relationship with money and our experience with money. And so can you share a little bit about your journey around going from fear and lack and scarcity, and your journey, kind of what are some of the shifts and changes you've been making through your daily practice that you've learned inside of the mastermind, and that you've been moving into? Can you share a little bit about that inner shift that you've been going through with this work?
Well, you mentioned the daily practice, and that is something that I found I do need to do. I have to remind myself on a daily basis that my life is good, that its abundance is there, and it's everything is to do with my consciousness, how I'm looking at these things. One of the big shifts has been in my attitude to money. Rather than it being something that I was desperate for, it's become a friend. So I heard this somewhere sometime that if you were to treat money as a friend, when it came to the door, when the door opened, you grabbed them and said, "Thank God you're here," and you pulled them in. That's kind of it's not the way a friend wants to be welcomed. and so it was shifting to seeing money as a friend. Thank you. I'm so pleased you've arrived. Come in, sit down. Let's have a chat. It's moving from fear to love, really. And I hadn't ever thought that was something that was even possible. It seemed crazy, to think of that. But and to celebrate when money comes in, to be really so grateful, and that, I don't know, I call it the universe. The universe is generous and supporting me, and it comes through so many different sources, and sort of, I mean, my father had supported me for a long time, and then we had this beautiful inheritance money that came through, and it was so joyful. And I remember being I remember thinking this could that I could kind of dishonor it somehow by not accepting the abundance and the generosity of my father, who had been so careful with money, and had this money to leave us when he died. So to be grateful, I think, is probably one of the key things that's changed in my life, especially in the last 2 years. Yeah.
And I would also say you went on a journey of empowerment around money, right? Because you were
Yes.
learning how to get into the driver's seat of your relationship with money, rather than, you know, your husband controlling it or your dad giving it to you. Tell us about that. Tell us about you going from feeling, you know, fearful and disempowered to this journey you've been going on around transforming your relationship with money and how you are with it.
Well, some very basic things. I now talk to my husband about money, and I can ask, you know, I know what we've got in our accounts because I look at them, whereas I didn't used to before. I didn't even know how to get into the app, you know, it was just like I didn't want to know. So it was just like I didn't go there. I am currently doing a course to find out about how to invest the money that I have. I have to, so rather, you know, I like to think I know a lot. And so that sometimes gets in the way of being a learner, you know, and starting at the bottom and realizing just how little I know about money and what I need to, how I do need to start at go and move through. I've had so little education in money in my life that this has been the thing I've really needed to do, and I've had to start from square one with that. But I'm enjoying it. I'm finding it fun. It's challenging. It's exciting. It's a bit sort of a bit scary every now and again, and then I think it's all right. It's just next step, next step, next step. So, you know, I'm being guided, well guided in what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it, which is just the flip side of where it was before.
Yes. And you know, you were sharing with me earlier that you're really allowing yourself, starting to feel yourself being supported and receiving, and what abundance actually means. And it's such a big shift from going contraction, fear, desperate, like there were the survival tactics of to, oh my God.
Yeah, well, I also used to beat myself up because I wasn't independent and I wasn't bringing in an income that was supporting the family. While the kids were small, we chose for me to stay at home and look after them full time. And I felt guilty about that for years. And then when it got to the point where I, you know, set up my business, I wanted to be able to bring in enough income to support the family. I wanted to match my husband. I was quite competitive. So I felt guilty about being dependent and competitive as well. And so there was some sort of resentment in a way that I was in this situation of being dependent on him. So it was, you know, quite complicated and messed up. But what it did was it just all sort of knotted up in that thing of fear that I wasn't contributing enough, that I was just fear of being dependent. And that again was another thing from childhood, always being told you need to be independent, you can't rely on somebody else to look after you, you know, this sort of stuff. And so I learned a lot about myself in that way too, just exactly what you said about going from this type thing to actually opening up around the whole issue of money and dependence, and recognizing that interdependence is actually okay. You know, I need to be able to receive with an open heart. And I wasn't. I was kind of, oh, okay, if you've got to do it, then all right. You know, if you've got to give me money, okay, kind of thing, which is crazy.
Well, yes, it's so interesting because our relationship with money manifests in all of our relationships, relationship with ourselves, relationship with life, relationship with our partners. And so you've done such brave and courageous work in terms of like doing that inner work to turn that around in your life. And obviously that then mirrors in our businesses and how we show up and everything that we do everywhere we go, there we are. So I really appreciate you sharing vulnerably with us, because this is stuff we don't usually talk about and there's a lot of shame about. And so I really appreciate you coming and sharing a little bit inside your world. So for anyone watching from the outside in who hasn't, you know, done this work before, hasn't journeyed within the Living Abundance Mastermind, hasn't really maybe gone into their relationship with money that much and the value of it, what would you say? Do you have any words of wisdom around this work for anyone kind of curious or knowing they need to sort it out, but maybe scared? What words of wisdom would you have for those people?
Well, I would say take the jump, take the leap. It does feel very scary. I thought, you know, for me, and I understand that with other people, but the thing is to think about the cost of not doing it. So, you know, I had the possibility of a ruined relationship with my husband, you know, because of money, because I wasn't getting clear on this stuff. I was not influencing my children properly around money, or properly is the wrong word, you know, but not in a positive way. I was passing on all my fear that I'd collected from my family. So it's one of the things that I have found so good about what the Living Abundance Mastermind, Lara, has been being able to get the mindset and the heart set stuff clear, as well as taking action, because that's one of the things that right from the beginning I loved about how you brought in what we call the masculine and the feminine energies there, and having those things work together. So the abundance, the feeling, and the openness has to be supported with action that has to be taken. And I found that was, I still remember clearly, you know, deciding whether to work with you or not. And I just thought, I don't think I can get this stuff anywhere else the way you do it. And after doing the wealth retreat, I just thought, yeah, there's something special here. And I really went with my gut feel on that. So that was an intuitive choice. Yeah. I don't know if those are words of wisdom or not.
Yeah, well, they're very, very powerful words of wisdom, because actually anything new that we do is scary. So we're going to have resistance to making any kind of change. And it's the fear of the unknown, right? And yet, so what you said is so important. There is a cost, right? So we have to weigh up the costs and really tune in. And how we do it in Living Abundance Mastermind, we follow your heart's consciousness, the soul, the body's wisdom, what I call the wealthy wisdom within, teaching you to follow your guidance system, and learning to decipher between survival, that survival kind of lack scarcity part of you, versus the abundant, connected, well-supported version of yourself. And that's usually a bit quieter. The survival part is like screaming, and the wealthy wisdom part is often quite quiet. So we have to go deeper to find that part and learn to listen to that part and create a relationship with that part, which is very brave work. And you've done exceptional work, and it's such a joy to work with you. And we are now blessed to have Iris come and join us as one of the coaches inside of the Living Abundance Mastermind as well. And we have our coaches are people who've been like deep diving in the lived experience of this work, and can hold space for you as you are journeying through transforming your relationship with money and your experience of money, so that you can welcome more money into your life, aligned with your heart, body, and soul. So thank you so much, Iris. I so appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. If anyone is interested in connecting with Iris, her details are below this video. If anyone wants to dive deeper into the world of wealth, conscious wealth creation, click on the links below. You can join us in the upcoming wealth retreat, or we're really happy to have a chat with you at any time. I would love to talk to you more. Thank you so much for joining our conversation today. All of our love, and speak to you again very soon.